Today's video one of a two-part series I'm going to do on goal setting for 2025. So today in the first day, we're going to talk about some initial questions to answer before you set your goals that will actually help you choose great goals. We're going to talk about what makes a goal good or bad, talk about some categories that you should consider, and then we're actually going to set them and give some examples. And then the second part, we're actually going to go through and track and talk about how to actually achieve them in the end. We're going to map them down from the end point into quarterly, monthly, etc. And then we're going to build a tracking system so that we all achieve our goals in 2025. So let me start with this first part. This video today is going to be a bit more informational. I think it's going to be particularly useful if you're someone who either A, typically doesn't accomplish their goals they set for the year, B, you fail to set them in the first place, or C, which I think a lot of people fall into, is you set the goals and you get to the end of the year and then you look at the goals and you haven't met them. And you also are thinking to yourself, well, I actually don't even want to achieve that anymore. That's how you know you set a bad goal. But we're going to talk more about that in a second. First, I have some initial questions that I think it's helpful to ask. And I stole these from an article that I'll link to in the description of this video. But first, ask yourself what areas of your life feel the most rewarding and how can you enhance those areas? So I think for most people, this will probably be a few categories: your family, friends, relationships, career fulfillment, whether you're working on something you enjoy, all of those things that we just all know are important to life, and kind of reflect on just what those are, particularly for you. Very specifically, think about the category and go down. By the way, you don't have to actually write down the answers to these questions, but if you want to, I'll be sharing this note in the description of this video so that you can just kind of copy all of this and go through it as an exercise. But next question, what areas feel stagnant or unfulfilling, and what would improve them? So I think that's probably where you're going to need to be a little bit more honest, but those things that either are causing you a little bit of anxiety, maybe you're feeling a little bit bored, basically just those areas of life where something sort of needs to change. I think we all know what those are. You can be honest with yourself about that. What accomplishments would make you proud to look back on at the end of 2025? I think that's a really, really important one, is just thinking about yourself a year from now. What would you look back on the previous year from and say, wow, that was a huge success. What a great year. I met all my goals. And then finally, look at your goals. If you did set them in 2024, how did they go? Which ones did you achieve? Are you happy with the goals that you set? Did you meet the goals that you set? Or if you didn't, why not? All of that good stuff. So just some kind of initial reflection questions, I guess I'll say. The second one is what makes good goals. I should probably say what makes a goal good or bad. But I think effective goals have a couple components. One, they're achievable. So you need to actually be able to accomplish it. If I want to become a doctor, that's great. Probably can't achieve that in the next year because it takes a multi-year degree. Challenging. So you want it to be achievable, but you also want it to be challenging so that it's fulfilling and rewarding. And also, most things in life that aren't challenging aren't really worth doing, or whatever that saying is. So make sure it's achievable, but that it's a challenge to actually get there. And then third, make sure it's actually measurable. So don't put these vague soft goals out there like, I want to be a better person, or I want stronger interpersonal relationships. Those are great starting points, but they're not measurable. So they're really hard to look back on the previous year and say, am I a better person? Are my relationships better? If you have something you can actually just concretely say yes or no, I did or didn't meet this, that makes it, one, a lot easier to achieve, but really it just makes it more measurable so that you can tell if you actually did it or not. A lot of these, and we'll talk about this in terms of tracking and achieving, can be set to a vague category and then made specific. So if you want to have a goal of being a better person, maybe one of the steps to getting there is you want to be more involved in your community. Maybe you want to give more to charity. And those things are measurable. You can set dollar amounts for those or time spent periods on them. Okay, goal categories to consider. So I don't think this section is really particularly needed because I think we all probably know what we want to achieve in our lives, at least on a categorical level. But career is pretty common. So that's things like your job. Maybe you want to start a company. Could be side projects. Could be a skill or something. Could be any of that. Finance, which I put in a separate one because maybe you are completely happy with your career, but you're in a lot of debt and you don't want to be in debt. That could be a finance thing. One of mine is that I want to invest more. I want to invest a larger percentage of my income to that. Health and fitness, that's pretty straightforward, but could be anything from nutrition to weight loss to weight gain, to running a marathon. It could be, mine are oftentimes weightlifting, all that good stuff. Maybe even could be mental health. Relationships, that's usually family and friends. That's kind of a hard category, honestly, because it's not particularly measurable, but you could still have goals there. So if I wanted to strengthen my interpersonal relationships, maybe I have a goal of calling a friend or family member at least once a day or something like that. So a little harder to do, but you can do it. Personal development, sort of a catch-all category. You could put anything into there. Maybe I want to read more. That's actually one of mine. I would love to read more. Maybe I want to improve my writing. That's another one I want to do. Start writing, every day so that I can publish more. Maybe I'll make that one of mine. Philanthropic, that could also be kind of connected to personal development, I guess. But, again, could be donating to charity, could be donating your time. Travel, that's a bit of a miscellaneous one, but I like travel, and it's a fun one. I used to have a lot of travel goals, especially when I was younger, so I'll include that as a category. Might be more categories, but I think most of the main goals people want to achieve fall into these. Okay, last part for today, and the most interesting part, setting our annual goals. So we want to start with an end state, or I guess we want to get to an end state. I should have said that in reverse. So we want to get to an end state, but we need to figure out how to get there. So first we need to set our goals. Pick 3 categories. You could do more. I guess that part doesn't really matter, but don't set like 10 categorical goals because that's just a lot of admin work and it makes it harder to achieve. It would be better to achieve 3 goals than to not achieve 10. So pick your categories. And again, think about those initial questions. What's kind of like nagging at you in life? What do you feel stagnant in? What do you hope to see a year from now? Where do you get the most fulfillment? And just kind of think about those areas of your life that you really want to focus on and improve in the next year. So let me just kind of do a bit of this live. So maybe mine will be finance. I always like to have a health and fitness one. What was the other one that I said I wanted to do? I'll do personal development because I said I wanted a writing one. Awesome. Okay, so we've got our categories, and now we have to choose the end state for those. So let's say finance, I'm going to use my investing one. By the end of this year, I would like to have invested an additional 100K. So we can put... So invest 100K by end of year. I don't think I'm going to get any more specific about that. I could say like where I'm going to invest it, but I think I'm just going to say invest 100K by the end of the year. All right, health and fitness. So these are all, I don't know, kind of real, by the way. Health and fitness, I am kind of embarrassed that I don't really deadlift very much, so I really want to start deadlifting. So I'm going to say start and get good at deadlifting. But if you've been paying attention, you're now thinking to yourself, wait a minute, that's not measurable. And you'd be right. I guess starting deadlifting is measurable, but I want to get good at it. So I want to set a number. So I'm going to say 225 pounds by end of the year. So that's 245 plates on each side. That seems symbolically, there's no real reason why I want to hit 225 except for the fact that I want to be able to deadlift 2 full plates on each side. So sometimes you have the category you want to get into, but you need to symbolically add a number to it. That's totally fine. If you need to add some sort of symbolic and meaningless number to make it measurable, totally fine. I think that's healthy, actually. And then personal development. What did I say I wanted to do for personal development? Writing, that was it. So I want to get back to writing, just writing articles for my personal website. So I'm not going to count any professional writing. I'm only going to count personal article writing. And I'll say I want to have written 20 articles by the end of the year. That's like not quite 2 a month, but close. I think that's a pretty good number. Again, totally symbolic. But it's important to have a goal that you can strive to meet. If I just say write more, it won't happen. Okay, so now we have our end state goal. And just to kind of give another example there, it's like you have your category, you want to be healthier, but you have to create something out of that. So maybe you don't really care about running a marathon, so you don't want to say run a marathon, or maybe that's too long. That's my case. I can't run a marathon, nor do I really want to, but I'd love to be able to run 10 miles without stopping. So that's an example of taking a category and turning it into an end state. But you just need to pick something that make sure that your end state is, if you did accomplish it, you'd be just really psyched and be like, hell yeah, I nailed that goal. So if I invested an additional 100K this year, I'd be really, really happy with that. If I was deadlifting 225 by the end of the year, I'd be like, yep, I'm pretty good at deadlifting now. If I wrote 20 articles by the end of the year and had those all on my website, I'd be like, wow, I really got into writing this year. So those are all good. All right, so that's pretty much where I'm going to stop today, because this next part down below here, we're then going to break it down and are those annual goal numbers into quarterly, monthly, weekly. I don't choose to do daily, but you can if you want. I'll talk about that next time. We'll break those down into goals, and then we're going to talk about kind of how you should load it in the year correctly and do sort of a gradual ramp up. And then we're just going to talk about some structural stuff about how to make it easier to accomplish in terms of creating tasks off of these things that you can then do. Basically, we want to get to a state where every day you wake up and you don't have to spend any cognitive effort on what you should do to get towards your goal. You know exactly what you need to do. You just need to go do it. And ideally, the day-to-day, it's not even that hard. So if you just make a little bit of progress on it each day, by the end of the year, next year, you will have accomplished all of your goals. So come back for part 2, and we'll talk about tracking and achieving goals, as well as doing an actual mapping exercise where we go through all of that.